Welcome to More Than Renovating, a renovate and real estate podcast. Our founder, Belinda Smith, talks to industry experts to provide you with the knowledge and information you need to make renovating for love and profit your reality. Belinda will also chat to some of her Renovation Mastery members who are just everyday people doing extraordinary things, following their passions in the renovation and property space. So, let's jump straight into the episode. Enjoy.
Yeah, hi everyone. I'm Belinda Smith from Renovate and Real Estate, and on today's podcast episode of More Than Renovating, because as you know, I always think there's a story behind a story and a story behind a property. I'm interviewing Sharon Hankins. Sharon comes from I Restore Stuff. I Restore Stuff is a fabulous, well, I followed you online for a long time on Instagram and Facebook, and I've watched many of your stories, your videos about you doing practical things with paint, restoring furniture, which is close to my heart. So how are you, Sharon?
I'm great. So honoured to be on your podcast today.
So that was my quick description of what your business is. What exactly is it that you do? I know you've got a few things going on.
Yes, I do. Yes, I restore furniture, I upcycle furniture, and my journey, if you want to start there, is over about 12 years ago. I started. I saw that my auntie was doing restoring furniture and upcycling stuff, so I thought I could probably do that with this little pair of bedsides that I've got in the guest room. And so I flipped those, and I just got such a really great satisfaction out of doing that. And then I thought, I wonder if these would sell. So I put them on eBay, and then pretty soon it's a little bit addictive. And I just was, every morning I'd wake up thinking about what else could I paint and so on. And so my husband was just like, kids, shut the doors. Your mum's looking for furniture to paint. Nothing was sacred. I'm like, oh, this is so much fun. I really got a great satisfaction out of it. And so, yeah, so that's that then turned into a blog, because I started to blog about my makeovers, and, you know, everyone loves a good before and after project. So I was doing that, and then that sort of morphed into what was a hobby. It just kind of bloomed into a business where I had some specific furniture paint brands and lines, and were reaching out to me and asking me, would you like to use our paint, and you can do a blog post on it. And I said, sure, free paint, free stuff, why not? So and then so pretty soon I kind of fell in love with a couple of different paint brands and actually became a retailer. So I as well as flipping furniture, I also sell online and in store. I've got a pop-up booth or a space at the Camp Hill Antique Centre here in Brisbane, and so I stock that with as well as the paints and DIY products. I stock the furniture that I actually flip, and as well as that, a few little antiques and collectibles along the way. So that's another little fun thing that I do. But yeah, so it's grown from there. And so now I'd love to teach others how to do what I do. And so I offer in-person workshops as well as online one-on-one kind of workshops. I've done a little bit of coaching others how to do this as a business. And so, yeah, as you said, I do quite a few little things. I've got a few hands in the fire, do you say, or a few, not all my eggs in one basket.
Yeah. Paint. There's something very, very therapeutic about watching other people paint furniture. In my stories and reels, I just constantly pass, and I follow quite a few.
There's so much inspiration out there, isn't there?
Yeah. And this old stuff, like furniture that can be improved, is all around us. And so many people. I was talking to a gentleman the other day, and he said to me, why do you spend your time painting up old stuff? Why don't you just throw it out and go down and buy something brand new? There's Kmart and IKEA and all of these places that have brand new furniture. I know. And so you're into it or you're not, but I just think there's no comparison. There's no those new
you know, there's just nothing like that good, solid furniture that they used to make back in the day, you know, and some of those pieces that people are literally throwing out and kicking to the curb. I love to just pick up those and, you know, give them a new lease of life. That's what I say.
Yeah, so tell me about that. You do find some stuff curbside, and where else do you
Yeah.
find your furniture?
Yeah. Oh, look, I've got a great post about that. I've got just about a blog post about everything. So I do have a great tab on my website, which is irestorestuff.com, and there's a tab that's called Learning to Paint. And so in there you'll find all of my best blog posts on all of those frequently asked questions that a lot of people ask me about. But yes, I've got a top 10 places to find furniture to upcycle blog post. And so some of those are, your local salvos or Lifeline superstores, or, your charity shops, places like that. Garage sales, curbside pickup, if it's allowed in your area. I don't see why not, because we're literally doing them a service.
I agree.
Taking the furniture and giving it a new lease of life. Friends and family, I mean, that can be underestimated sometimes. Sometimes you might, if you just put the word out there in your family chat groups or whatever, and say, anyone got any furniture? You don't need any anymore. And you'll be surprised that there's lots of different places and avenues that you can find
It
pieces
is
to
really a
paint.
thing, isn't it? I remember going to an open for inspection, a property open for inspection, that's so me, and seeing this amazing furniture, and I could pick potential in furniture, and I think that's part of it as well. And so I rang up, there's a local lady here in Sydney, and I rang her up and I said, would you be interested? She said, oh, how did you even know about me? But I'd followed her online, I follow you online, and if I'm local to you, I'd be calling you. So in your area, because it's just such a shame to see people not valuing their mother's furniture or an old furniture, or it's a deceased estate half the time. People just, it's too much effort, so they just take it to the tip. And this breaks my heart, because there are so many old things that have such character and come up so beautifully when painted.
There are, and that's another little avenue that I don't do as much of anymore, is painting for other people. So, once you've perfected your craft and you learn how to do the painting of the furniture, that became another avenue of income, was just to do other client work. And so you'd quote those up and then go either to the client's place if it's I've done huge hutches and things like that before, or bring the piece to your place. But yes, I've been contacted by interior designers who are literally flipping a place or renovating or, doing up someone's home. And they've had, like, for example, a gorgeous old, large mirror that was their grandma's or whatever. And so they've said they just wanted white. They don't want this wood anymore. And so, I've done things like that. So it is such a, it saves the sentimental pieces, and you can just use that in a modern look in your home, but also it saves it going to the tip and landfill and all the rest of that recycling stuff. So
So what potential do you look for in a piece? Like, what really catches your eye?
Well, I think, it's tricky to sort of stay on those trends, and I know that you can sort of look for those that might just have the basic bones of that something that's on trend right now. Like, I know that the mid-century modern pieces are all the thing right now, and really people are still loving that wood look of the mid-century, the original look. But there are some pieces that still look great painted that might have, like, I'll never paint a really antique piece or a true vintage piece. I just can't bring my heart to painting it. I love to restore those ones. But there are some pieces that are really ratty, and you might have, they might be like dog-eared, and you can just kind of patch up those pieces that would look terrible if they were stained, because you can see all those patched together bits. But if you know what you're doing, you can really get a nice smooth surface to actually paint on and create a whole different look for the piece. So what was the original question? We were talking about,
like, how
to find good potential in pieces. And so the other really important factor is finding real wood, solid wood pieces. So I made that mistake early on when I was learning. You don't pick up chipboard or the MDF pieces, because that wood typically swells if it gets wet, and it's just a mess to deal with. So I like good solid wood pieces.
Me too. I treated a veneer table once and cleaned it all back with terps, and all the veneers started to bubble. Wrong product for the wrong stuff.
And you learn. That's all the learning curve, isn't it? And just learning tips on what to do. And there's so much involved, or can be involved, in painting a piece, because there's so many variables out there, with different surfaces that you find that you're painting on. So
So how do you even know where to start when you get your piece, your furniture piece? You've grabbed it because it's drawn you to it, and you know you can add potential or use it in a part of your house or on sell it to a customer. And then you've got this piece. How do you start?
Yeah, good question. So first of all, you really need to just look at the surface that you're working with and decide whether you're going to paint it or refinish it, you know, strip it back to raw and stain it again, or just sometimes there's really, really old pieces that are that shellac finish on them that you can actually reactivate with methylated spirits, and that, you know, using a bit of metho and a 4O steel wool on that surface just kind of reactivates it, and you can get a nice finish just by reactivating that finish. But that doesn't work with everything. It's just particularly only those old shellac pieces. But yeah, just seeing what kind of surface you've got to start with, making sure it's free of grease and grime. There are some paint brands or claims out there that, just slap it on. Chalk paint's kind of one of them, just slap it on anything. And to a certain extent, chalk paints and mineral paints can stick to so many surfaces, but I always recommend prepping your piece, especially if I'm making something for a customer or a client. I don't want that surface to be compromised and then have them coming back weeks later and going, oh, it's chipping and flaking here because, that paint the surface has been resistant to the paint. So grease and grime is a big thing. I use a product that we stock called TSP, which is trisodium phosphate, which I think is like a sugar soap type stuff, but the one that Fusion makes is actually a phosphate-free TSP, so it's really not TSP, but it's a good cleaner. It degreases, degrimes things, gets your surface all nice and clean, and you don't have to rinse it like you do with sugar soap. So that's a really good thing to do, making sure that surface is all clean. Then I sand it back, wipe it off, and you're good to go, basically, with painting.
So you don't necessarily have to undercoat these pieces if you're using a good...
Yeah, good point. Some pieces I undercoat as in like a primer. The only places that I really use a primer is on pieces that are going to bleed through with either a tannin or a stain that is underneath the wood. So you get some pine pieces that have those big knots in them, and those knots will sometimes bleed through a white paint and create little yellow surfaces. There's cherry woods and, that have got that real pink tinge will come through on white pieces. If they are back to that raw state, I've had pen and ink marks, painting inside drawers to kind of cover those up. And you're trying to paint that white, but the ink will bleed through. Yeah, so for any of those particular stains and tannins, I use something you can get from your local hardware store called Zinsser Bin, BIN, it stands for something, don't know what, BIN, Zinsser Bin stain blocker. So you have to get the shellac based stain blocker, and that comes in a white. So when you are painting white, that's kind of handy because you can actually see that it hasn't bled through and make sure. So that's the only real reason that I use a primer. The other reason I may use one, I stock Artisan Mineral Paint and Chalk Paints, which is an Australian brand of paint, and they have a great pre-prep primer, which in grey and in white. So if you're doing dark colours on a wood piece, you might like to put a grey primer on first to, save your good. So it's basically a cheaper version of a paint that will save you a couple of layers of that good top coat paint. So then you'd use a white one for if you're going from a dark wood and you want to paint it white, use a primer like that to just do a little transition, and then you have less coats of the white paint that you want to paint with. Because some of those bright whites, you really need several, no matter what brand you use, you need several coats. Yeah.
I find the same in a renovation when you're using, or when we're using acrylic paints and we're doing, door frames and so sometimes it takes a couple of coats of undercoat and a couple of coats finished. Because we love our light whites. We still do. Yes, we still do. What is the difference between chalk paint and mineral paint?
Yes, that's a good question I get a lot. And there's actually a third one. So I've got a really good blog post in that Learn to Paints tab on my website that's all about what's the difference between chalk paint, mineral paint and milk paint. I don't know if you've heard about milk paint as well. I know, yeah, there's a few different brands of that. Now, milk paint traditionally is a powdered paint, and it comes in powdered form, and you mix it with water, equal parts, and then it stirs up and mixes up like a paint. And I love it, absolutely love it. I used to sell Miss Mustard Seeds milk paint here in Australia. There's other brands out there as well. But I used to feel like I was just back in the olden days, and it just feels raw and primitive, and love a rustic look with it. It gives a nice chippy look on existing finishes, but it also is extremely durable on raw finishes. So that's milk paint. And then with the chalk paint and mineral paint, their main difference is that chalk paint is a bit of a thicker paint, and mineral paint's a little thinner than the chalk paint. But their main difference is that chalk paint and milk paint are a porous finish, and the mineral paints have a built-in top coat. So they have sort of like, you don't need a sealer necessarily, it's optional. Whereas the chalk paint, it's a very porous finish, so you will get fingerprints, dust, grime going, or even if you leave oil or something, gets on top of that, it'll soak down into the paint. Whereas the mineral paints have that built-in top coat. So that's your main differences there. But I've got, that covered a lot more in that blog post, you'll find.
And a lot of people cover or coat chalk paint to prevent all of those kinds of stains and the rings from a coffee cup. With wax, coat it with a wax, or coat it with clear, I'll call it a varnish, but what I mean.
Yeah, there are several different finishes that you can use for both chalk paints and mineral paints. Like I said, with mineral paint, I would probably only use a top coat or a sealer in those hard wearing areas, say for example, kitchen cabinets that get banged around all the time, or a tabletop or chairs. Whereas if it was just a side table with a lamp on it, I wouldn't worry about a top coat or a sealer on a mineral paint. But yes, chalk paints, you can finish them with waxes. There's also your oils, like stain and finishing oil, that Fusion has a version of that, or like your Danish oils and things like that. Then you've got hemp oil, I guess that's in the oils category. Then you've got your wipe-on poly, so it's a polyurethane varnish, I suppose you'd call it, sealer. And I mostly use the wipe-on polys because they have a non-yellowing, well, the Fusion one does at least, those water-based ones are non-yellowing. And so that's especially important over whites. Yes. If you're going to do an oil-based, a sealer on top of those, they'll yellow over time. Sometimes wax has a little bit of a tendency to do that too. So, but I do love a good waxed finish. It just feels beautifully polished. I don't know, there's something, it gives it a professional feel, I feel. And wax is kind of underestimated as a sealer because it has a durable surface once it has been allowed to cure, which is a really important thing to probably talk about, is curing time versus dry time. Yes, because when you've painted a piece and when you've waxed it, when you've finished everything, there is a period of time that the moisture completely evaporates out of your paint or your surface. And that's usually around about 21 days, I say 21 to 30, roughly 3 or 4 weeks, depending on humidity, the weather, all the things. But that gives that paint and the surface a long time to harden. So, for example, it's kind of like you getting your nails done, and if you bump them too soon, it'll ding the surface of your nails. So if you've got a nicely painted surface and you're like, oh, it's all dry, it definitely feels dry, yes. But if you go and put a lamp on it or something heavy within those first few days, that lamp will stick and then peel away that paint. Same with kitchen cupboards. I always, for 21 days, I'll leave the drawers open of a piece, or I'll leave the cupboard doors open or off if you've taken the hinges off. So that's important to note, is the curing time for pieces,
Mum's a classic. Mum will paint something and then she'll put it in its place because she just can't wait to see it in its place.
Yes, I know. Mum, so tempting. Yeah, so tempting.
Oh,
I mean, light things aren't too bad, but when you've I've made a mistake of shutting the cupboard doors too soon, and then you go back weeks later and open that door, and it's torn off the paint. It's just. Yeah. It's the worst. So
Okay, so if you're like me, and I've had some pieces that I've moved from house to house with different styles. I've repainted one particular piece that's upstairs right now 4 times, and when I finish my reno and move in, I'll take it with me, and I already know what I'm doing with it to revamp.
You're going to paint it
5th time. So it's been crackled, it's been white with Hampton's look door. It's been stemming right back from 1990 when it was
Wow.
folk arted.
Yeah. The great folk art era.
Flowers. Yeah, so it's been through all of that.
Yes.
And there's something that, first of all, I grabbed the cupboard of the neighbour's front lawn. They were throwing it out, and I took it aside. They were really happy to see this piece that had been in their son's study go to a really nice home. Well, I mean, they're past now, but I'm sure Pat would smile if she saw it upstairs in my room. So if you do something, if you're like me and you want to repaint things over and over and, you know, change the doors and the handles and do a few little things like that, does it prevent you from repainting things, or do you just have to strip the wax off with some kind of product?
Yeah, look, I've found that wax is once it's had its curing time, well, I don't know if it's just curing time or if it's like years later. I've gone and painted pieces years later, and you can kind of do that scratch test. If there's still wax on the surface, then it's time to remove it. But if you cannot scratch anything off it, it's pretty good to go. Just give it a scuff sand and paint over it. Yeah.
What do you do with all of your handles, or do you buy new handles from a favourite place, or do you leave them on and paint over them? What do you do?
Yeah, so it depends on the piece. If I think that it's going to be, you know, it's going to work with the new look, then I'll keep the piece. Sometimes I've painted over those. We've got some nice Fusion and Artisan have nice metallic paints, and there's that rub-on buff that we've got that as well. That is really beautiful for those. What do you call those? Little bits and pieces, hardware, hardware that you put on pieces. So but sometimes I'll find them, and I don't really have a favorite place to buy from. Sometimes I'll find things on eBay, sometimes on Marketplace, handles that people are selling. And I've even bought them from, I don't know, a shop where I've thought, oh, that's a good one. I'll use that for this piece. So yeah, Bunnings or wherever. So I don't have any special places, but that's what I'll do. I'll either revamp them or find something new.
So for somebody wanting to earn a few extra dollars on the side, who gets completely absorbed and lost in the joy of painting like I do, and I know you do as well, is there an income in flipping furniture? Like, is there enough people wanting those finished pieces, and can you get the product cheap enough to warrant your time, you know, factoring in your time and the cost of the paint in between? Is it a good thing?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that it would start out possibly as a hobby, but it would definitely, you could grow and build it depending on, I really think that you would have to add something to it to make it viable. And that would be something like learning your art so well that you do other pieces for clients. You know, you have clients wanting you to flip theirs, because that is definitely an area. You have different customers. Well, I find that you'll have people that are just like, oh, I like what she's painted, I'll buy that. Or there's, oh, I've got this piece and I really love it, but I'd love someone to paint it for me because I don't want to do it. And I guess you've got your third person who's like, I've got a piece, I want to paint it, show me how. So I would, if you're working in all of those same things, yes, you could do a business out of it. But if you're just selling furniture and just putting it on Marketplace, for example, it's probably not as viable, because you really do have to market it pretty well. And let's face it, we love Marketplace and we want a bargain. So those people are going to try and hit you for bottom dollar, and you've put in so much work for your piece. So if you are going to do it, you do have to put some effort and money into it, and you do have to market. So I would say shift it all to a website. You want to put your furniture pieces up there, but it's a lot of work to kind of do that. Whereas I would supplement it with other things. Yeah,
I was just going to jump in and say that it would depend on your own personal brand. You'd be building your own brand as well. Yeah. So that you became a trusted, well, like you are in your field, you become trusted, and people trust you. They don't have time. They don't do their piece, and they trust you, and they'll come to you to go and do the piece for them on their behalf.
Exactly. Yeah. And so you've got to like doing that as well. Like I personally have sort of pushed away some of the custom work because I find it stressful. I don't know about you, but I'm just kind of like,
doing it is.
It's like, yes. Whereas if I've painted a piece and I thought, oh, that looks nice, someone either has the option to buy it or not. But if you're painting up something for someone else and they don't like it, but my husband always tells me, he says, you've never painted something for a client that they've not liked. They've always come home raving about it. I think it's half of it's just me. I'm just a perfectionist. I'm like, oh, what if they don't like the way I've done it? But there are sort of variables when they start asking you to do it a certain way or a certain color, or I want this custom look about it. They want you to match something else that they've seen. There is a bit of pressure involved there. So you've got to like doing that for people.
Yeah, and dealing with people and all of that.
In general. Yeah.
So when you're looking for a piece of furniture, do you have in your mind what it's going to be like when it's finished, what colours it's going to be and all that kind of stuff? Or do you just drag a piece home and figure it out on the fly?
Yeah, I figure it out when I get home usually. I don't really see a piece and go, wow, I can see that. Unless not really. I don't when I think about it. No, I usually find a piece that I think that would look good. But I've usually decided whether I'm going to paint it or restore it before I get it home. Yeah. And so, I do have a pair of bedsides that a friend gave me actually, and they're just that old golden pine. Actually, I've got them. I could share screen. Do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Or do I not know? Can we not do that?
No, you can do that. It's great.
Here they are.
It'll be great for anyone watching on video, not so good for the podcasties.
Oh, sorry about that. Yeah, well, I have to put a little link in the notes. But this is like an example, before, after of that one there. So it's just a old golden pine. But see, I've used the original knobs there. So that's one piece that I did use the original knobs for. But it's this old golden pine looking piece. Varnish was all ripped on top. I don't know if you can see the top there. Okay. But yeah. And so I painted that in a nice bottle green. It's called Cotswold green, which is a nice dark olivey colour. And I've stained the drawers using just a wash. Now that was created just using a chalk paint brown, and I just mixed it with water and created a wash. So there's so many unlimited possibilities when you're using water-based paint as a wash, and then put a sealer over the top and you're done. So yeah.
And I can see the potential in that piece straight away because it has really rounded drawer fronts, and so round is in right now, the same as my daughter. I'm going to Bondi on Saturday just to pick up a piece that my daughter and I found on Facebook Marketplace. Same thing, it really suits the look and the style of her house. Sometimes you have to picture what's there in front of you with all of the knocks and the scrapes and the bits and pieces.
Yes, exactly.
Place for less than 200, and picture it in the place. It has to be the right scale, the right height to perform the right functions, like this all right in the middle, which is perfect for her. So it gets really easy, or it's really easy to fall in love with bits and pieces on Marketplace because they're $100 or $50 and then forget about where they're going, the amount of work to fix
exactly.
They're going to perform in your house, exactly where they're going to stand, whether they're going to be to scale with the other things.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't really think about what I'm going to do with them and like that one was just like last minute. I even had my daughter who's studying interior design. I said, can you come and tell me what colour should I do this, And because I sell a range of paint brands, I sell the Fusion brand and as well as the Artisan paint brand, they're coming out with beautiful new colours that are on trend and all of that kind of thing. And I want to use those colours. And so I love to just go, if we've got a new colour, I'll probably paint it in that. But then there are still a lot of people who, if they're requesting, like I've just had a client that I did do custom work for. I said I didn't do that anymore, but these were a lovely couple that I'm like, I gave in. Right. So they just wanted all their dark wood painted white. And so I just did a whole bunch of white furniture. And sometimes I'm going, come on, people, play with colour. Pick a colour. So, yes.
Yeah.
I love it.
Pick a colour. I mean, I do love colour, but white's very safe.
It is safe. That's it.
Yeah, there's got to be colour somewhere. Otherwise, white house.
It is. But it's nice to just add, I don't know, if in your renovating and all that kind of thing, when you're staging your homes, just nice to add the little pop of colour of a piece of furniture rather than just all the cushions and the...
just so you know, my daughter's doing hers sage green. She's going to do
beautiful. Perfect. Yes. See, here's the... If you're on podcast, you won't be able to see, but this is that Cotswold green that I did the
lovely. It's a nice colour green.
Nice olive kind of green.
Yeah, and the beauty is that she'll be able to match in that sage green with some artwork and a rug on the floor.
Yes.
She basically has the walls of her rooms are white, but these things really add colour and they add feel and they add heart and character and warmth.
Yes.
I think people in the States have done this for a long, long time and
they
do
have
it very, very well.
Yeah.
Warmth in homes.
Mm. Yes, they're like over the top with all their decor and their wallpapers and their everything, and it creates a beautiful atmosphere.
Yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
so hinges on or off. What do you do with your opening doors?
Oh yeah. So when I'm painting a piece,
Yeah.
it all
Or paint
depends.
straight over the top of them.
Yeah, I have done that before.
Yeah,
I
me
must
too.
admit, I have done
Yeah.
that before, probably with more of the chalk painted, kind of when the shabby chic, which is kind of fading out now. I mean, it was in quite a long time, is, distressing all the edges and that kind of thing. Sometimes you just leave everything. You'd paint over handles, you'd paint over
Me too.
hinges. But yes, if I'm wanting those metals to show through, like if a hinge is matching a drawer knob metal, for example, I'll definitely take the hinges off.
Yeah.
And paint the doors separately. It's sometimes easier to do that without trying to, do the doors in place.
And so those metallic paints in your ranges, do they last on things like doorknobs and handles where they get some wear and tear?
Yeah, again, it's about the surface of the piece that you're painting it on. So, sometimes you'll get those wooden knob handles of those sets of drawers. Scuff sand those back and that'll stick beautifully. But then if you're trying to paint metal on metal, also you can scuff that as well. So just making sure it's free of grease and grime. Yeah, and they're good to go. So the paint, seal them if you're worried about if there's, if they're going to get hard knocks and hard wearing, that'd be something I'd seal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But for most of my listeners, we love renovating, right? So
yeah.
Where this really comes into play, where repainting and revamping furniture really comes into play for us, is we can quite often grab what's already existing in our own homes and repurpose it in a house that we're perhaps styling to sell, or we can take stuff that was maybe left behind by somebody else and revamp it, or we can go and get things on the cheap and revamp them if there's time, which means that we're filling up a house with, character and warmth and heart and saving money, or we can perhaps change the look of something to suit our new place. It just means that we don't have to go and buy brand new stuff.
Yeah, absolutely.
Brand new stuff is expensive.
Yeah, perfect. And where the colour and warmth comes in too, I thought of was if people are renovating for a rental, they're going to have it as a rental home and you've probably got your whites and your basic walls, the furniture pops of colour can really add that extra detail and extra warmth in there too. So
yeah, perfect for Airbnbs and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, brilliant. So where else from here? Like what are you going to do with your business? Where are you heading, Sharon?
Yes, well, one thing that was also unexpected, I haven't even mentioned yet, is that I started becoming an ambassador I've been an ambassador for a stencil company in the USA. So there's every now and then a DIY product that people will either give me to promote or stuff like that. So I go live on their Facebook page every week and teach people how to do stenciling and create signs using the paints that I use, but also their stencils. And so I make a commission on that. So that's another revenue of an avenue of income that I've added to my business. So this year there's another one of those. So sort of, I like that. I feel like one of my passions and one of my giftings is teaching. And so I love to teach other people how to do what I do. I love to find the most clear and simple and precise ways of teaching them how to do that. And so I see in the future, and I've been saying this for ages, and I have a husband who does video production and audio production. And so I should be onto this, but I do want to start up some workshops that are online and courses. So I got to do it.
I encourage you
to this year.
I've watched a few of your videos and I've seen you do your stenciling. Watching that kind of stuff, I just find very therapeutic and relaxing, and I get I'm very admirable of what people are able to do, how creative people are, and the ideas that they come up with recycling, revamping furniture.
Yeah.
Really interesting to watch.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's an art form. Some people are really, and everyone finds their own style too, because there's some people who will just do really flamboyant kind of pieces with so much color and artwork. It's like an art piece. I'm like, I'm just painting to fit in with the trend of the colors and whatever.
Yeah, and then there's somebody else who does, white.
Yes. Yeah. So you have this huge difference, but you get known for what you like to do, or you take requests or whatever. So yeah, Yeah.
No, it's great
fun.
fun. If somebody
It's very
wants to watch your video content, where's the best place to find that?
My video content, I've got a YouTube channel, so you can find me at I Restore Stuff on all of the social media platforms. I even started a TikTok account one time, and I don't really post there anymore, but that's going. But mainly Instagram is my thing, Facebook, but YouTube videos, definitely all of my content is up there on YouTube. Also via my blog, you'll find that most of my YouTube links are all within blog posts, which have a bit of a, step-by-step kind of thing, as well as the video content. So I Restore Stuff everywhere.
What's your pick for the colours for, from now into the next, let's say 12 months, because we all know fashion changes so quickly with furniture. What are the big sellers at the moment? Yeah,
well, I'm not an interior designer, so I can't really predict all of that. Oops, sorry, playing with the microphone. All of that, the colours, but I really feel like there's going to be some more dark, moody colours coming back in. We've had whites and lights and airy and stuff for so long, and of course the greys have sort of stopped selling, and we're going more the taupes and the tans and those kind of cream colours. As far as off-whites, they're leaning more from the cool tones to the warm tones. That's what I'm finding.
I agree.
Anyway.
That's the same things happening in the renovation space. Exactly the same thing.
Yeah.
From grey tiles to, sandstone.
Yeah. Yep.
Neutrals and
Yeah.
Has there anybody who's been a major influence in your business life or personal life that's really helped you get this business up and running and started?
Look, in business and in life, I always go back to my mum. I mean, she's seriously Miss DIY Queen. When we were growing up, mum and dad I'm the oldest of 5 children. And so when I just remember growing up, mum she sewed us our dresses, she cut our hair, she did she DIY'd like everything. We had dining room chairs that she would reupholster. She made her own curtains. Mum and dad painted, wallpapered our 70s house. So she really was an inspiration for me even way back then. And growing up, when I became an adult, I turned 18, I was out of home for a year and then came back, and they had built in the 2 garage spaces for my brother and I to have our own bedrooms, because, 5 kids, there's 4 girls, 1 boy. And so we'd pair up in sisters to share bedrooms, but I had my own space. And I had this brick wall that was just, mum and dad said, yep, you can paint it whatever you like. So my favourite colour was red. And so I did this bright red gloss, mind you, brick wall, and I painted... And I paint bright red, and I painted in do you call it mortise? I painted white in all of them. So it was this red and white brick wall. I was so proud of myself at 18. But I remember, doing all that stuff. So mum and dad, and, mum has always been my biggest cheerleader. She's taught me a lot in life, in my faith. I'm a Christian, and I love God, and I've got a lot of that faith and inspiration from my mother. And she goes on my lives and she says, I watched you today, and she's in there typing in the comments hello sometimes, or she just, sends me a message afterwards, watched your live today, loved what you did, and biggest cheerleader and truly an inspiration in the DIY sense as well. So, yeah.
Yeah, I remember I came home from school or from somewhere with this poster of a horse, and behind the horse were all these rolling green fields and mountains and hills. And I said to mum, I had a little pink bedroom. I said, I want my bedroom green, and I want this to be this is the wow factor in the room, this poster of this horse. And instead of saying no, mum said the same. Mum said, okay, off you go. So I picked the green, and she made the doona cover for me from material we put together, repainted all the furniture, and it was great fun. And I think,
it's amazing.
Guys, let your kids at it. It's not a big deal. It's just
absolutely. I mean, I had a feature wall before. I'm sure feature walls were a thing. You know, it was beautiful. My big red wall.
Yeah. All right. So if somebody else was starting their journey, if they said, okay, I really want to start painting furniture, I'll have a bit of a go at it and see where it goes. Is there one piece of advice that you'd like to give them in starting a business, like a furniture flipping business?
just start. But I would definitely start it as a hobby first and just see how you make sure it's a passion of yours. But like literally, if you're waking up, like I was waking up morning, going to bed at night, just thinking about that piece in the garage, tomorrow I'm going to, you find that it's a passion. And so I don't think that we can ever get away from those things that are truly our passion. So if it is a passion of yours, I would just say go for it anyway and start small, add to it, add to your expertise. Get to know, if you're a visual learner like I was, just get on YouTube, watch, learn, make mistakes, correct them. And when you start, just showcasing what you're doing to other people, it will grow. People will see your work and it'll come,
Yeah, consistency, just being methodical and enjoying what you do and just, it's everything. Thank you so much, Sharon. Sharon's from I Restore Stuff. Thank you so much.
It is so good to have been here. Thank you so much, Belinda.